Hey guys, my name is Jess and I am from All the Right Bites, and I'm here today to show you how to make my 5-minute black bean brownies. So a little bit about me. I was actually diagnosed with MS 15 years ago when I was 15, which makes me feel really old because I am turning 30 in a couple months. But it really changed my entire life. And I started doing everything and learning everything I possibly could about how to treat my MS. And that is how I found the world of nutrition. And I actually have 2 university degrees. I went to university for health science, and while there, that's where I found food and the power of nutrition and how what we put into our bodies really does matter. And so I did a second degree in nutrition because why not? And I really, really just fell in love, and I started researching every possible diet that I could with MS. And I will tell you, there is a lot. And what I learned is they are all different and everybody is different. And so you really need to do what works for you. And what I found worked for me was to take some of the commonalities, which seem to be vegetables and fruits and healthy food. Who would have thought? But taking the really healthiest parts of all of these diets and incorporating them into mine. So I am 100% plant-based. I try to consume absolutely no animal products. I have a lot of veggies, a lot of fruits, whole grains, the whole 9 yards. And I take it as a personal challenge to make treats that are healthier. So one of my favorite superfoods is the black beans. I try to have beans, lentils, legumes, all those good things every single day. They're fantastic, and it's even better when you can hide them in treats. So these are my black bean brownies, and we can get started. And I'll talk a bit as we go through, but they're really easy. I have a very powerful blender. I will let you know if you have a less powerful blender, it might take longer to actually blend everything into nice and smooth. You do want it to be nice and smooth because as much as you can't taste the black beans in the brownies, you also don't want to find chunks of black bean in your brownies. So blend it as smooth as you possibly can, even if it takes double the time. You can pause and just blend until you need to. I know you have the recipe card. On the recipe card, it says throw everything into the blender and go. You can do that. Again, if you have a less powerful blender, it will take longer. So I'm going to show you how I do it, which makes it a little bit easier. And that is to first start with your wet ingredients. So your wet ingredients are your beans. This is a 15-ounce can, which is what is on the recipe card. If you did get a 19-ounce can, you can still make the brownies with it. Just make sure that you add about a quarter more of everything. So a bit more oats, a bit more sugar, a bit more maple syrup, all the good stuff. Just add a little bit extra. Next, I'm going to add my next wet ingredient, which is my maple syrup. This is real maple syrup. It is from Costco. You can use Aunt Jemima's, but because I like to keep everything as natural as possible, I like to use my original maple syrup. So that's going to go in. The next wet ingredient is your 2 teaspoons of vanilla. So I just toss that in. And finally, the coconut oil. So I use coconut oil. I love it. Everybody thinks of it as a superfood. It's not really a superfood, but I do like the taste. But you can really use whatever oil you have. So if you have olive oil, if you have avocado oil, try to go for a lighter tasting oil, but use whatever you've got. It's pretty simple. This is a very forgiving recipe. And I'm just going to dump the coconut oil in. Smells delicious. I will warn you, the black beans do not smell delicious when blended. So avoid sticking your face into the blender to smell because they do just smell like pureed black beans. So now we're going to blend for the first time. And this blend is going to take about a minute. So I will see you in a minute when this is all blended. So we are back. I hope you blended it. I'm not sure if you can see, but it's all over my blender. It's this weird purple, mucky, black bean color. Like I said, don't smell it. You're not going to want to. And now it's time to put in all of the dry ingredients. So the dry ingredients are where I go off a little bit. First, we're going to start with the salt. And just make sure I get the right one. There we go. A little bit of salt. A little bit of baking powder. I know some people get like a little iffy when they're putting salt in food and they're like, oh, I might try and cut down on the salt. But it will tell you that baking is a science. So please, if there's a couple things in the recipes that you can change it, use different cocoa, use different chocolate chips, use different maple syrup or oil. Don't get rid of the portions of salt and baking powder because your recipe will not work out. Next is your oats. The reason that I love this recipe is because, one, I try to have whole grains every day. So strike number 2, I've got my beans, I've got my whole grains. But also, if you do have people who are gluten-free, you can use certified gluten-free oats. And then this recipe is gluten-free. Just make sure your products are certified gluten-free. My oats are, and my baking powder is, just because I do have a lot of friends who are gluten-free. Next, it is the cocoa. Now, the cocoa is my absolute favorite. This you can be a little bit more liberal with. I like to give 2 heaping tablespoons of cocoa. This is just my organic extra dark cocoa, but whatever cocoa you have is fine. Extra chocolate. No one's ever complained about extra chocolate. And then this is the part where you could be vegan or non-vegan. Chocolate chips are not necessarily vegan. A lot of chocolate chips, if you get milk chocolate chips, semi-sweet chocolate chips, even dark chocolate chips, they will have milk product in them. So if you are making these for yourself and you are completely vegan, or if you're making them for your friends who are completely vegan, make sure you read the chocolate chips. If you're not vegan and you just are making these brownies for fun, you can use whatever chocolate chips you want. I use President's Choice plant-based chocolate chips. And the reason that I do that is because President's Choice has a lot of products that are plant-based. They are certified vegan, and they are also not like $9 for a bag of chocolate chips. This bag of chocolate chips is $3.50. So it's kind of nice with President's Choice that you have the option of getting vegan or plant-based without it costing an arm and a leg. And so this is where I go off recipe. And the recipe says to mix in the chocolate chips when you're ready. And instead what I do is I blend them in because I like extra chocolate. And I do find that it helps with the taste. It makes them like super dense and rich and chocolatey. So what I actually do is I take the half cup of chocolate chips and I blend them all in there. And then afterwards I put everything in a bowl and I add my fixings, as you might call it. However you want to make the fixings, you can always add more chocolate chips. But trust me, blend your chocolate chips. It will take about another minute because we want the chocolate chips smooth. But add the chocolate chips in and then blend it and you'll like it even more. Totally optional. You can follow the directions exactly, but this is how I do it. So it's time to blend now for 1 more minute. So we are back and this is completely blended. If you look in your blender, it should be nice and smooth. You might still see like flecks of the oats or flecks of stuff. That's okay. We just don't want any big chunks. I will also say be careful with your blender. Mine, I can take the blade completely out. And sometimes when you're blending stuff like this that's really thick, your blades can get really hot. So I always warn people, be careful because you don't want to burn yourself, because I've done that. It doesn't feel nice. So I'm just going to, basically I take everything that's in my blender. You can scoop down the sides. It will be very, very thick. It's a very, very thick batter, especially if you blend it in the chocolate chips like I did. I like nice and thick, juicy brownies. So you just want to make sure you get it all out, or as much as you can. Also, because it's been blending now for 2 to 3 minutes, your brownie mixture will probably feel warm. That is totally normal as well. Again, physics and heat. But I'm just going to take it out. It is a very thick batter. So you're not going to have like a cake consistency for your batter. It is very thick. And it is very chocolatey. You can taste it. You will not taste black beans. All it tastes like is pure chocolate. So it tastes like pure joy. And now it's time to bake it. And before you bake it, you really have a lot of options. So as in the recipe, you could put chocolate chips in it. You can mix chocolate chips in it, do like a chocolate chip brownie. Some of the other things I like to put in are very polarizing for brownies, but you can put in nuts. I actually try to have nuts every single day. Most people don't realize that just like 2 tablespoons of walnuts have all of the omegas that you need. And as a vegan, I don't eat fish oil, so I go with nuts. Pecans work as well. You can put a bunch of different chopped up nuts. It's really up to you. You can put different types of chocolate chips. Or if you want to get creative, fun fact, Oreos. Oreos are completely vegan. This was a mistake. They didn't make them saying, we're going to make these vegan. They are just vegan. Naturally, that's how Oreos were made. So you can use Oreos. Again, if you're making it gluten-free, make sure you buy the gluten-free Oreos. But you can put all of these in your brownies. And how you put them on depends on what you cook it in. So if I'm cooking it in a pan for these brownies, I make a 6x6 pan. Make sure I grease it first. And this will make about 9 brownies. What I like to do, however, is my muffin tins. So I just have my muffin container, and I have these amazing silicone reusable cups. And I like to use these cups for a number of reasons. One, the silicone cups are reusable, so it's better for the environment. I can throw them in my my dishwasher, and they're good to go for the next time. And they really don't cost that much more than the paper ones. So in the long run, I feel like I save money, which is also a bonus for me. But also I like to use them because if you've ever used like the aluminum muffin cups, or if you've ever used versus the paper ones, the aluminum or the silicone ones that are thicker actually give you more moist brownies and cupcakes. So I also just think they make the brownies taste better. And I also like to do them in the cups because if you've ever made brownies in a pan like this, and then you cut it, and you have a brownie one night, if you don't finish all the brownies, whatever sides you cut, they're going to get stale. No matter how you wrap it, they're going to kind of get crispy. And then you have to trim the brownie, and you end up losing brownies. So instead, I put them in my silicone molds. You could do it whatever way you want, but I'm going to use my molds, and I have a cookie scoop. I like to use my cookie scoop. My boyfriend's mom bought it for me a little while ago, but it just makes sure that I put the same amount of batter in each mold so that they cook evenly. You could also use a measuring cup. I would normally put in about 1/4 cup for each one. And so I'm just going to add these all in. Let's see. It's not coming out as easily today. But so you go through and you do it however you want. You will have to spread or smooth out the top of this batter because it is such a thick batter. It's not a cake batter that will assume the shape of your pan. It is a thick batter, so you do have to smooth it out and work with the batter a little bit. But that's because it's filled with all the natural goodness of beans and whole grains and natural sugars, and it's delicious. So I've got a bit more batter in there. I'm going to do a couple things. I'm going to sprinkle walnuts on top because walnuts are a super nut. And because I have a kid's barbecue that I'm going to this weekend, and kids love Oreos, I'm also going to put Oreos in a couple of these. And then once you've got your toppings or your extras in, you don't have to put extras. You can literally just make straight up brownies. That's cool too. But once they're in and they're ready to go, they're ready to bake. And so when you're baking, it does depend, the length of time does depend on what you're cooking them in. If you are cooking them in something like the silicone molds, because they're smaller, they will take less time. If you're cooking them in a brownie pan, they will take more time. Regardless, whatever you're cooking it in, you cook it at 350 for anywhere from 12 to 20 minutes. If you are cooking it in a pan or even in the molds and you don't put the Oreo in the center, basic rule is you put a toothpick in, it comes out clean. If you do put an Oreo in the center, it's harder because you would just be sticking the toothpick into the Oreo. But normally if you do it on the outside, you can kind of test. And if they are a little undercooked, you just get really gooey brownies. This morning I made some already, and so I can kind of show you what they look like when they're done. So this is my tray of brownies. They're in all of my silicone molds. These ones all have Oreos in them. Instead, I'm going to a kid's birthday on the weekend, and this is a really fun way to hide black beans and make children eat healthier food. But that's really all it is. It was 2 blends, mix everything in, throw them in the oven and bake. I spent a lot of time figuring out my diet when it came to my MS. And I am happy to say that I am completely symptom-free. That is a combination. I did have a stem cell transplant. I follow a very specific diet. I work out all the time. But I want people to know that it is really what works for you. So for me, I have found the plant-based diet works. I actually developed a nutrition program that I teach people called Eat to Thrive. And the goal of the program is just to increase plant-based foods in your diet. It's not going full vegan. Not everyone is meant to go full vegan. But if spinach and greens are so healthy, I do believe we can all benefit from eating more spinach and greens. And beans are super healthy. So if we're going to eat black beans, why not eat black bean brownies? That is it for me. I hope you enjoyed making some brownies with me. If you want more recipes or if you want to ask me questions, you can find me on my Instagram or my YouTube channel, All the Right Bites. I have tons of different healthy ways to hide your veggies, but also just different tips and tricks of how I eat on a daily basis. So I am going to go enjoy my brownies, and I hope you enjoy yours too. Bye, guys.